I'm still kind of getting like banged up by my regression experience. I feel like it's been a like unfolding a lot. Like the key word for my regression was like burdened. Like being a burden to others, but also feeling burdened by others, and how that gets in the way of connecting. And I went back and listened to the Mercury retrograde live I had did a couple of months ago when we were in Metro Metro Mercury retrograde during Pisces season, which I think is interesting that this year's Mercury retrogrades, all of them are going to be in water signs, and so I think it heavily allows us to pay attention to our emotions, and I found that to be interesting. So in that live, it was a lot about care, of how you care for yourself, how you embrace or embody or receive oxytocin, and how we kind of take care of ourselves. And really, it was like a gauge of like paying attention to like what gives you oxytocin, what gives you dopamine, and kind of really just paying attention to our habits and like our patterns. Versus, I feel like with this retrograde is bringing a focus on connection. That care and connection are ways that we show up for ourselves, but they're different. Like you can take care of something without actually connecting to it, because care in a lot of ways is like, okay, I'm going to set out these uh uh I don't want to say assignments, but say I'm going to take care of myself in these ways. So if I'm going to use myself as an example, I'm going to take a bath, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to clean my house, I'm going to set the mood, all these different ways. Yet most mothers, no connection though. And I think that's the thing, that like we could care for ourselves without that connection. And if we're talking about reparenting ourselves in these ways, we want to make sure that we are caring for ourselves from a place of connection. And when it comes to my regression and thinking about it being burdensome, even in the ways that I show up for myself, has really just like kind of been dragging me a little bit of like, because I talk so much about devotion and caring for myself and loving myself and like having a deeper connection with myself. It has also highlighted the ways that I have not done so because of it feeling burdensome, which has brought my question for today is like, do you trust yourself to recover? Because I think that is what I'm realizing about myself. And I would, I guess, open it up to say on a grand scale, is that why we don't connect the ways that maybe our heart yearns for? Because if we do, and it doesn't work out, at some point there's a disconnect, at some point there's a disappointment, there's a fracture in the relationship, do you trust yourself to recover? And I think that is what has kind of kept me from connection in a lot of ways, is the fear of not being able to recover from it. Even though, like, I was journaling about this, and like, what evidence do I have that that's true, that I won't be able to recover? Because I feel like I'm pretty resilient in those ways, but I think I've been resilient out of necessity or as a way to care for myself, but not necessarily to connect to myself. That my ability to recover has been limited. Hey, Julian. Hey, Essence. In a way that I recover, but in a way I recover, and that recovery uh, makes like a blanket in a way of protection. That like I had this one experience, it was heartbreaking. I recovered from it, but so that I'll never experience that again, I'm going to not even open that up again, if that makes sense. And so having to like think about that more, of like I don't think that provides safety either. That it doesn't lead to like actually trusting myself in that way. That yes, I recovered, but did I really, or did I just cover it up? And in terms of like persona and shadow and all those things, I think in that way we can create a persona or ego based off of this resiliency, but in a way, I don't know if it's really resiliency. It's coping in a way. And so that has been like a question for myself. Sorry, I had a little instant. Of like, do you trust yourself to recover? And if so, that should open you up to new experiences. That like you don't have to hold out on new experiences because you are concerned with how it may end. Because in a way, it makes you kind of disassociate from what's happening currently, and you miss out on a lot of beauty and love and pleasure and abundance if you're safeguarding yourself in that way. Which also made me think of relationships in regards to connection versus attachment. Connection, I think, is two people choosing each other or choosing to experience something. Because I think even in terms of like connecting to your creativity, connecting to love, connecting to beauty, and all of these things, I don't think you can connect to those things from a deficit of like needing to fill a void versus a curiosity of like, I want to experience this thing, and therefore I'm willing to connect in that way. Versus, I think attachment is, I need this thing to complete me. I need this thing to survive. And when I think of attachment, I think when you make relationships and connections through attachment, is because you don't trust yourself to recover. That like, I need a set situation or experience or person so that this is the perfect circumstance to where I know I'll survive because we're attached. And that's where like that dopamine addiction, I think, comes in, where you form this addiction and this attachment to something so much so that you feel like you can't live without it. And it's been really just like, I guess, looking over my life of seeing where there's an attachment versus a connection. And it's been uncomfortable looking at for myself, to be honest. But I said this in the regression workshop, that like after the workshop, expect to be triggered. Expect to like whatever comes to the surface in a regression. There is a unfolding of that, and you get to see all the ways that you've been like participating in that one belief and seeing it unravel and kind of die in a way, and having to like hold yourself through that and through the grief of it, because there is grief, I think, that comes after the regression, because a part of you is dying, a part of you that learned how to survive in this way is dying, but also you're having to trust that this new version of you is emerging that can be safe and who can connect and who can explore, and like it's a very vulnerable place to be, especially I think for myself right now, since my regression was around connection and relationships, which is just like this also feels burdensome to me, that like so much of, I feel like my life lessons are centered around relationships, and it's just like I can't get away from it because it's just my astrology, like it's just my energetic makeup that I'm meant to learn about life through my relationships. And I think that about all people, but I think for me in particular, it's to a heightened degree. Hey, Monet Eloise. That's exactly how I feel. I had to sit with myself and speak forgiveness and safety over myself. Yeah, I feel like I have just been floating, I guess, and like allowing whatever comes up to come up. Like, I think right now I am experiencing grief, because in thinking about being a burden and being burdened by other people, and thinking about the connections I do have and the lack of connections that I have, has made me think deeply about my sisters too. And this weekend, what I was really sitting with is like, even though I think I'm always joking, like, you know, I'll be the villain, but in that, it made me realize, like, what if nobody is the villain? What if nobody is wrong in this situation? What if we're all just navigating life and like we're just not aligned in this way, and like there's nobody to blame, there's nothing to point the finger at? Like, what if it just is that this is where I'm at in life, this is where they are in life, and we just aren't on the same road we're not going to the same destination, we're not going to the same road. And it has made me realize this is why I avoid connection in this way, because it really is heartbreaking to, especially I think for my sisters in this way, that like I'm the baby, so like this has been like all I've known as far as our relationships, and to be on a completely different road, going to a totally different destination in that way, it's like I feel a level of self-doubt, a level of fear of like, what if I'm the one on the wrong road and they're on the right road, and I am just I'm choosing this. I've chosen to separate myself. And so I don't know, I guess I'm just navigating all of these questions. I do trust that I'm exactly where I need to be, and I even trust that they're exactly where they need to be, but it doesn't make the journey any less painful, I guess. But it's heartbreaking, but it's healing for me, because I can't hold the burden of others on me anymore. Yeah, I think for me, it is to kind of release the idea of burden. That, like, the people who love and care and want to be in my life aren't going to see my needs as a burden. That, like, the people who love and care for you actually want to know, how can I support you? How can I show up for you? How can I want you to be at ease versus like, damn, you always asking for something. Damn, you always needing something. And I don't think I've even allowed myself to have needs, to be honest, because not in relationships. I think for me, I've and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think on one of the Monday meditations, it I was talking about, like, I need to expand my list of needs, because I think my list of needs are very basic, in a way of, like, of course I know I need my rent paid, my bills paid, I need food, um I need, like, all of these, like, little things that I think I do well as, like, showing up for myself. So, like, I know I need a journal. I'm not gonna go too long without journaling. I know I need to, soak and take a bath at least once or twice a week. I know if I go too long without walking, I need to walk. I haven't taken into consideration that, like, I need relationships too. They're like, I need connection. I need people in my life who don't feel like I'm a burden and who want to pour into me and who have the capacity to pour into me. That, like, those actually are necessities. Like, if I want to live the life that I keep saying I want to live, I want to have these experiences, that, like, I'm going to have to expand my need list to also include those things. But I think because I haven't allowed that to be a need, that hasn't even been in my realm of thought. Like, if I have a relationship like that, great. That's a desire. It's a want. I haven't thought of it as, like, no, I do actually need that. Because I think we approach our needs in a way that prioritizes them. That if you feel like something is just like, oh, I want that, but I don't need it, you're gonna bypass it. You may want some juice, but you feel like you need water, you're gonna get the water. If you feel like you need something in order to feel safe, hey Eli, you're going to make sure you have that thing in order to feel safe. And I just haven't even made relationships a part of a need in that way. Hey, Leisha. And I do think the need to relate to others and be in relationship with others is a need, but I think too the need to connect with yourself is a primary need that would, I guess, be able to foster those type of relationships. And I guess that's what I'm getting to, is like, I do think I have the capacity to be in the type of relationships that I feel like I need in my life. That, like, I've taken care of myself in a way that I don't have to fear relationships in this way, because I have connected with myself, and it doesn't, it won't, it kind of, my life doesn't even set up in a way that attachments would work, to be honest. They're like, in order for relationships to work in my life at this point, it would have to be from connection. That, like, attachment also now doesn't feel safe to me, so I'm naturally going to disconnect from them. But on the flip side of, like, I know what attachment feels like, and I know that feels icky, but do I know and am I open to what real connection feels like, and the vulnerability of it, and am I willing to be open enough with somebody to show up for me without feeling like a burden. Let me see what y'all say. Sometimes I have to put myself on the back burner when choose myself first. People fell off quickly. Yeah, I think that's with the heartbreak, I guess, it's in like the people who were okay with me putting myself on the back burner for them. And how then me prioritizing myself became a burden for them. I think even getting to a place where I'm now willing to ask for help or support also became like a burden. And then this Monday's meditation, what was one of the journal prompts asked, like, what recurring conversations have I been having with myself? And ultimately it was about relationships. And that's, I guess, been a reoccurring conversation or pattern of looking at, like, are you actually emotionally available for real connection? And I think the regression for me was like kind of that last piece of seeing why I don't connect, so that I now feel safe to. Because I feel like without seeing the why and the regression, it would have made it hard to identify why I don't connect. Like, I wouldn't have pieced them together. Because, like, I was even talking to Carlissa about this, that, like, in relationships, or even just with y'all, I feel like I almost kind of pride myself of, like, I'm a vulnerable person, I'm transparent, I'm like an open book in a way. And it has also made me a little confused about, like, why is connecting to people so hard if I am so forthcoming and, like, I'm an open book. But I realized that, like, why is connecting to people so hard if I am so forthcoming and, like, I'm an open book. But I realized that, like, sorry, I was getting a call. I realized I'm an honest person and I am transparent, but I wouldn't say necessarily vulnerable, if that makes sense, because of that burden piece of, like, I talk about things that I don't mind talk about, that I've healed through, that I am open about. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's more the vulnerability of, like, asking for my needs to be met, of, like, show up for me, support me, is a very, like, vulnerable thing to me, because I think of that fear of rejection of, like, well, what if they don't have the capacity? What if they aren't, if that's not what they wanted? And it's just like, it was a little, like, ouch of, I guess, in the regressions, you get to see the truth of you. Not the you that you think you are, not the you you've built yourself up to be. Because, like, prior to, I would have thought without a doubt, like, yeah, I'm a vulnerable person. I'm open, I'm loving, I'm all these things. But it's like, I never thought of me also being avoidant. And that in some ways I avoid connection because of the not wanting to express a need. Let me go back up. It's hard releasing hyper independence. Asking for help is uncomfortable. Especially, I think asking for help is hard, but I think I did get to a point in my, I guess, journey where I did start asking for help. I was just asking the wrong people. So like I was still in the same environment that honestly was harmful, and asking for them to support or provide repair when it's like this is actually the environment that caused the harm. Of course they're not going to be able to hear what you're asking for, because this is the norm. This is the lay of the land. And so you're asking for something that, one, they don't even have the capacity to understand, let alone give. Do you think it's due to us sharing and being open as well? Jillian, can you clarify, what do you think it's due to us sharing and being open as well? I think the sharing and being open, at least for me, I think I'm open and I share based on, I think, what I'm gauging you have the capacity to receive in that. And in that way, I think if you're only vulnerable to the extent that you think somebody can receive, one, you don't trust yourself to with that full vulnerability of like, even if they can't meet that need, will you meet that need? But also it kind of is a subtle distrust there that like, I don't trust you with me, that like I have to like contain my openness because perhaps you can't meet me in that. And if you never are fully open, I guess, when do people get to rise to the occasion? When do people do get to support? How do you even gauge who can and who can't, if, I guess, like, you're hyper vigilant on seeing like who can, I guess. Your aura, your knowledge, and the wisdom is so healing and needed though. Thank you. I think even me being gentle, I think I don't know why I feel emotional right now. Even me being gentle, I think I am naturally gentle and soft spoken and all of the things, but there are also aspects of me that are very like straightforward and don't really have a lot of room for bullshit either. And sometimes I think that could be a mindfuck for people, because it's like, you may enter into my space because of my aura, because of my gentleness, but then I might say something and be like, hold on. Hold on, I wasn't expecting that, because I was gentle. So it's like, in a way, I think people expect a certain type of nourishment or nurturing, but I'm still very like straightforward too. That like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat something, or I'm not gonna beat around the bush about something just because I'm sweet. And I find that is triggering for people, which also feels like I'm always gauging of like, can this person deal with the reality of me? Because I think even in terms of dating, that like most men think they want a woman that's self-aware and who is in integrity and spiritual and woo-woo and all of these things. Was like, you want that type of woman, but you don't want the reality of that type of woman. You want somebody intuitive and nurturing, but you don't want the reality of somebody that is truly that way. Build structure and career around it so you're not reckless with it. You mentioned being vulnerable was absent. Do you think us receiving it makes it easier? Yeah, I think I feel safer with people when they're curious. I think that has kind of been my gauge on like who do I want in my life and who I don't, based on their curiosity. They're like based on what they're assuming about me versus what do they actually want to know about me. Um and the building structure around it so that I'm not reckless with it. I guess I'm exploring what that looks like. What does building safety around it without the safety becoming like overly protective? Because I think I've been probably overly protective around it, which is why I don't have that many relationships. I think is because of that, like being overly protective of myself in a way. It's gentle in a way that creates a safe space for us to come to you, but it's not the totality because you are straightforward and very honest with your approach. Thank you. Um, from my experience, you'll have to practice tempering it so you can get it right. Y'all receive that. I don't know. I'm gonna think about that. People can really misuse a person being gentle and will confuse it as allowing them to do anything. Yeah, I think that's something I've also had to wrestle with is the gentleness also being like overly considerate. And the overly considerate also leads to the feeling burdened by in a lot of ways because one, I think if you're more considerate of someone else over yourself, it's not really consideration, it's manipulation, honestly. Because you're like say in a situation that somebody didn't show up for you or didn't have the capacity, and you had grace and so like, I understand you have these things going on in your life, whatever. That in your mind is creating a sense of safety of like, well, this person can't meet my needs. I get it. They got a lot going on. And so you're considering them. But I think if you consider them to the extent that now you have put yourself in a position to not consider what you need, to where like you're not even going to that person to ask for anything because you feel like they can't meet you in that. And so I think you can be considerate and you can only be as considerate with others as you are for yourself. So in that scenario, it's like, this is my need. You might have something going on in your life and you can't do it, or you can't meet me in that, which is fine because I feel like that's going to happen in relationships. We're not always going to be on the same page, but can you still hold the openness for that need to be met even if that person can't meet it? Are you open to how God, the universe, the divine is now going to meet you in that need because it's still a need? Or are you willing to totally dismiss and close off that need just because that one person can't meet it? Because I think that's what the closing off of that need as a whole, I think, is what creates the resentment. Is because now I've considered you, I've considered your life, I've considered all of what you have going on, and it has caused me, in a way, to close off my heart to believe that my needs also are important. And now you're almost kind of holding that person accountable for your need not being met, versus perhaps another person could have met that need, or the need could have been met in a different type of way. And I think from my own experience, if I get uh if I get the inkling of like, you can't meet this need, it makes me shut down altogether. Of like, and I know that this is a childhood thing. Like, I could remember certain situations. Like, I was a very pessimistic child that, like, if our parents told us they were taking us somewhere, like, I remember in particular, I don't think they have Knott's everywhere, but in California they have this amusement park called Knott's, and we were going to Knott's. I was probably like 8, and um, we got ready the night before. We got up, we got dressed, and like, we didn't end up leaving the house till like probably like noon or 1 o'clock. But because I don't know if somebody, like, one of my parents told us like, we're gonna leave, yeah, Knott's Berry Farm. I don't know if they had told us like, we're gonna leave first thing in the morning or what, but like, I'm counting down. So by the time I get to like 10, 11 o'clock and we ain't left the house yet, I'm having like a full blown tantrum. Like, we're never gonna go. They lied to us. It was just like, girl, please calm down. This why, for real, I don't tell my kids, like, if I'm gonna take them to the park or something like that, I don't tell them until either the day of, or maybe even like an hour or two before, so that I don't get their hopes up, and like, say when the time comes, I'm tired, I don't feel like doing that. Versus like, if I just tell them on a whim, like, oh well, we finna go do this, lessens the disappointment. But like, when I think about those experiences, it was just like, if something didn't happen exactly how I expected it to happen, I would just completely have a meltdown and like shut down. Versus, and I think that happens to me in relationships too. Like, that's what I was gonna say. Monday's meditation. When I was journaling, I thought about like, I haven't. Now, granted, me and my ex, we've been broken up for, I guess now it's about to be 4 years. Or no, it is. It has been 4 years, and I have not thought about being in a relationship. But I think it's because I was in that relationship for so long, and I was like deeply in love with him. It was just like, I don't know that I have made myself open and available to be in love with somebody else because of the heartbreak of that situation ending. And I think the vulnerability of just being open to experiencing love, maybe in a different way. Maybe I don't think it's possible to be in love with nobody the way I was in love with him, because it takes a certain level of naivete that I just don't have. But I think I've completely, like, whatever part of the brain that is like hopeful for like romantic love in that way, I think has been like shut off. Let me go up. I do the same with my nephew. I never want him to be disappointed if I say I'm gonna do something and don't. Yes, I guess I've just been seeing, since the regression, all of this like trickling into different areas of my life, and that this burdensome energy has affected, basically. Even I seen this post earlier. This girl, she was talking about like how she was talking about finances, but she was saying like, when you grow up in a chaotic household, your nervous system gets wired to create out of need or necessity, or like to make money out of like need or necessity. And I know for sure that is something I have been working through. That like, if I need something quickly, like I need a bill paid, or I need to come up with $200-300, or I don't know, a bill came out of nowhere or something like that, I feel like, and I used to always joke with my friend about this, that like I feel like my higher self or spirit likes a thrill or something, because if it's down to the minute, I can I don't know, it's like I can make things shake. I don't know. But if I could know about something 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, and then it'll be out of sight, out of mind. I'm not working towards like building the momentum to have the money or whatever. But it's like in those last like crunch 3 days, I feel like I can get it done. And that TikTok really explained it like very well, of like being able to create out of necessity versus desire. And I think I'm experiencing it now since the boys have been gone all summer. And I've had abundance of time, and it has been nice just to rest. But I noticed I don't have the same urgency to do things. Like I was telling Carlista, like I haven't really cooked in probably like a week and a half. I haven't cooked since the last time the boys were here. And it's because like I just ain't been like, either I just been snacking all day, or me and Jameer will eat out, or Jameer will, order herself something. But I feel like I have not been eating 2-3 meals a day. Like I've just been winging it each day. And it made me realize that it's because I feel like it's not a necessity, I guess, that like I don't physically feel hungry. But it's because it's a necessity for me to cook and have meals planned and shit like that when the boys are home, because I have small children. But in thinking about it for myself, that I'm not thinking of it as like a necessity in that way, that like I could just eat whenever I get hungry. And in that way, it's kind of not healthy either, because by the time I'm hungry, I feel like I'm gonna order something, or I'm gonna eat out. And so I don't know, all of this is just like spilling out. I guess in a good way though. I need to get this money by tomorrow. I always say that too. Me and my friend have like, whenever we talk about money, we always like, I need to get this money by tomorrow. But for whatever, I feel like whatever reason, I'm able to do it like that, but I don't like it, because it puts me in a like fight or flight. And like I could feel myself being in fight or flight. And it's so weird, because I feel like leading up to it, I'll feel just fine. But then because that need or that urgency comes in, and now I'm like trying to like piece things together, I'm trying to figure it out, and it just makes me feel so uncomfortable. But I mean, I'm able to get it done, but it's unhealthy. Leisha or Lady, have anything came up for y'all since the regression, or even Essence? I think you in here too. This, what I will say is, I'm really appreciative, and this is why I love doing this work so much, because it keeps me accountable to myself. in a way that even doing these lives, like I was thinking about that. I've been consistently going live every week since like February. So I like the consistency of it, and like sharing with y'all in this way keeps me, I think, in integrity with my self-development. Unfortunately, my childhood was a horror movie. I'm afraid mine was too, and I think I have normalized it so bad that like when I say things out loud, it's like, oh, that was deeply traumatic. That I've totally normalized that. I was too sweet and optimistic to go through that. I've been looking for someone to save me ever since. You know what has also, all of this has made me realize is how unprotected I've been, and that like how normalized harm has been. And I think in that way, what I love about the regression is it does make you remember your innocence in a way. And just how you said, like, I was too sweet and optimistic to go through that. It really makes you feel like, oh, it's almost heartbreaking in a way of like, no one's seen you as this innocent, adorable, pure little soul, versus like you going back, it's just like, oh, you deserve so much more than this. You deserve so much more love than you experience. And that in itself makes you like, I think like catapult you into action of like, oh no, I gotta take care of her. But there is, I think like a sadness in a way of like, damn, nobody's seen you like this. Yeah, triggered you up out your seat. Yeah, like when I think about my regression, I'm just thinking about this now. In my regression, I was trying to hold my mom's hand, I think, and it was like she didn't want to hold my hand. And when I think about that, it's just like seeing a little 5-year-old, cute little chubby hand with little dimples. Like, why wouldn't you want to hold that cute little adorable hand? But then I also think of it as like a mom too that's overstimulated, overwhelmed. And it's like you don't mean to do those type of things to your children of like it's like you don't realize a simple moment like that can totally like shut down somebody's heart or spirit in that way. Pissed at her parents and everybody that didn't love her correctly. It's an icky feeling, but you can't go around it. And I think too, in order for us to get to relationships that can support and pour into us in this way, you almost kind of got to go back to those parts of yourself that felt disconnected in order to even really know what you need. Because I think from an adult perspective, how many of you would even be thinking about those experiences that came up in the regression? Even though like it's not something new, it's not something that I've never thought about, but are you thinking about like, oh, she still needs that? Like she still needs that repair in that way. I would say for myself, I wasn't thinking about that in particular. I never considered it. And be so terrified to ask themselves what they need. Yeah, I think the average adult does not know what they need because, hey, Chef Raquel, because they're also terrified to admit that they need that. I think even for myself, like, um, it has been making me think of um, that script on Ari Lennox's first album when after Apartment, that song she made about moving into her first apartment, and she said, "Oh my God, I need people." I feel like that has been my thought this past week of like, I do need people. And as somebody who has, I feel like, cut everybody off, it has made me realize that, like, I can't stay here. I can't dwell in this isolation, and that I will have to open myself up to have deep connections. Like, I acknowledged it was bad, but I never put adult me back in the little girl's shoes. Yeah, and I think it's important to see like how that little girl still shows up today. That, because that's the piece that I feel like makes you realize like, oh, I still need repair here. I still need to care for myself in this way, because you don't see how the little girl is still influencing your life now. At least I feel like for myself, no, because I would have never thought about myself being avoidant, to be honest. Like, if I was to look at like attachment styles, I would have just assumed that I had anxious attachment, and that even from the anxious attachment of me creating separation and cutting off certain relationships, I would have associated that with moving from an anxious attachment to a secure attachment. Never really paying attention to also how I'm avoidant. I minimized it the way the children's emotions are minimized. Yeah. I think it has also been making me want to be more gentle with the kids too. That, like, I guess, and then and seeing how something as simple as like my mom not wanting to hold my hand like stayed with me in this way. That, like, as a mom, am I paying attention to the ways that also my kids need me, that go beyond, providing for them, or even taking care of them, but in a sense of connection, and having to realize that, hold on, also having to realize that if I have fear connecting in this way, how it has also affected them. That, like, I'm also going to have some repairing to do as far as connection with my kids too. It kept me from realizing how traumatic it really was. Yeah, I feel like I didn't really start thinking about how traumatic my childhood was until I went to therapy. And I'm like, we talking about certain things, and she's looking at me like, girl, that's traumatic as hell. And I'm talking about it like, oh, it's Tuesday. My attachment style was disorganized, fearful, avoidant. You don't know if now secured unless in a relationship. Yeah, and I guess that's what this is making me realize too, is why you can't really heal in isolation for real. Like, you can become aware, you can get to an understanding about yourself, but I don't know that you can really heal and repair it in isolation, because it would take for you to have corrective behavior and actions. Yes, I was the therapist. Eyebrow raise, or like the awkward silence. I think too. Also, what I realized too, in regards to relationship and connections, is that I'm typically, in order for me to be open to a relationship, like, that person would have to show interest first. That, like, I want connection, but I don't pursue it. That typically, if I do get into a relationship, whether platonic or romantic or whatever, typically that person is the one who's like establishing the friendship. I feel like I'm not really good at pursuing friendship, if that makes sense. I think the um, repair, I guess, in it is pursuing friendship with Eli. I think that has been the most recent pursuit of friendship I can think of. But outside of her, when I think of like all of my friends, or even like all of the romantic relationships I've been in, it's been because they pursue either friendship or romantic relationship with me. Hey Tony. Not to say like I be for whoever want to be my friend. I still feel like I have a selection process in that, but I think in order for me to even start like gauging like, do I want to be this person's friend? They like I'm kind of not thinking about it in a way, which also has let me know like how, like, I guess maybe like shut off I've been in that way. I think in relationships too, though, this has also been like a plus for the relationships I am in, because I find that um, that has also led to loyalty in my relationships, but it has also made the people I'm in relationship with feel chosen, or feel like prioritized in a way. Um, because one, they know I'm selective, and then two, I'm not looking for relationships. So like if they made it into like my inner circle or in my bubble, they feel like um I don't know, chosen, I guess, in that way. Which, when it comes to friends, I feel like that has also made it difficult, because I don't know, I feel like my friends be having a possessiveness or like a sense of protection around me. But I think it's for that same reason, that like, because we're friends and they know I don't just open up to any and everybody, that it makes them feel special. But if I was to start opening up and being friendly with everybody, it would dismiss that specialness, I guess, or that feeling of being chosen in that way. I feel like I have been shut off due to just not having time and energy outside of demands of motherhood. I would say maybe unpack that a little a little more, because I don't think you could be too busy or too consumed with motherhood to have relationships, to be honest. Because relationships, friendships would just become a part of like your life and your world. Think about like in dating. Um if you're dating somebody, they fit in somewhere. So like if you're dating a guy and he know you're a mom, more than likely, if he got kids too, maybe I do kid shit, or he paid for a babysitter or something. I don't know. He gonna maybe pull up to you while you at work and take you on a lunch date, something like that. To where I think I don't think you could be too busy for relationships unless you like 007 and like got a crazy work schedule. I think that's a part of the lies we tell ourselves. They're like, "Oh, I don't have the time or the energy for relationships." When if you unpack it a little further, perhaps you have made your life busy to avoid relationships. You've made your life busy to not have to deal with that vulnerability that comes with relationships, in my opinion. Yeah. Because even in motherhood, like, you're not mothering 24/7. Sometimes you actually need a break from mothering and like have a quick key, go for a dinner, hang out. That way you're not overwhelmed by motherhood. So I think like even when I think about mm, the people in my life that were consumed by like marriage and motherhood, it would have actually been in service to them to have a life outside of being a wife and a mother. That like you've made yourself busy in that way so that you don't have to deal with perhaps not knowing yourself, not knowing how to connect, not knowing what you like, what you need. Mama gotta have life too. Because if you just get consumed with motherhood, in a way you're dismissing what you need outside of motherhood. Like motherhood is not going to meet all your needs. It's easy for me to make friendships, but I cut people off if I sense they are not safe for me. How are you with conflict, Jillian? That has opened up another Pandora box for me too. Of like, do I know how to conflict resolve in relationships? Am I good about repairing while in a relationship? That's something to think about as well. But in my spare time, I just want to rest. So like when I think about that, like in your spare time, you just want to rest, is like what friendship could look like is like a friend that just comes over, y'all have a lazy day in and watch TV together and cook brunch. But I think it's a very like vulnerable thing to have that, honestly. Are you okay with a friend coming over, being in your space when it's probably not spick and span? You haven't made a whole lunch thing and a charcuterie board. It's not fancy. You just want to lay in your pajamas and watch TV, and allow somebody to come over and be with you and rest with you. I think those are the things we reserve for, I guess, romantic relationships, but what would that look like in a friendship? And I think that's the vulnerability that is required in relation like friendships. But I think those are the type of friendships we reserve for people we're familiar with, that we grew up with. We have a lifelong history with each other, and I think it is hard to build those type of relationships midlife, because we've also been jaded by life. That, like, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, I can see how I've been jaded in relationships that will also block out what I do truly desire. Like, I'm that kind of friend. It's hard to find those these days. I feel like I want to be that type of friend, but I don't know how to invite that type of friendship in. And that's the hard thing. That, like, how do you build that type of connection with somebody that is new? It's easy to have that kind of connection when y'all grew up together, when you're family, and our lives have been enmeshed in a way that you understand me. But in new relationships, it's like you're still trying to gauge the safety. You're still trying to gauge what's okay, what's not okay. And I think in that way, that's why relationships are exhausting, because it's a constant trying to protect in a way. Yeah, it feels very daunting. I want understanding, so I listen and ask questions. If I feel disrespected or unheard, I have shut down. I do think asking for understanding and seeking clarity, I guess, is like conflict resolution. I think is rare and hard to find two people in a relationship that's willing to, like, see it through, honestly. A guy to build the safety. Um, with building the safety, I guess that's the part that I feel like I'm exploring, of, like, what does that safety look like in real time? That, like, in isolation, I feel like I have enough safety with myself and my emotions and caring for myself. But I think inviting another person in, the only thing that provides, I think, a sense of safety is back to that question, is like, do you trust yourself to recover? That, like, if I let this person in and they experience me, I experience them, and I love them, and it does go awry, we have a conflict where we can't resolve, will I recover from it? Do I trust myself to recover from it, and recover from it from a place of still keeping my heart open? And I think that is the safety that, I guess, I'm working on and through. They're like trusting myself to recover. Probably like our relationship with our parents. It does all come back to them parents. I I do this with Alicia this weekend, and it was very nervous. Y'all look so cute, and y'all look like y'all had such a good time. Um, I can say I was nervous when I met up with Eli. I don't know. It is like, people only, like, I guess associate the nervousness and like the giddiness of starting a new relationship with men. That like, do you not think that that happens even in platonic relationships with women? It's hard adding others in when you don't know. Yeah, I think that's. I think the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being able to recover. Can't be safe with nobody else. You're not safe with yourself. Yeah. We did it. Was worth doing it. Afraid. I love that. I think this is why it's hard cultivating adult friendships. So many things to consider. I agree. I was nervous before going to ATL. Um, I was just thinking, am I nervous about y'all coming out here next week? I guess I haven't thought about that. um, yeah, I guess I would say yeah, a little bit. It is next week. Is it next week? Yeah, not this weekend. Next weekend. I know time is going by really fast. I was just thinking that like this month is damn near over. Oh Lord, it came fast. June did slip through our fingers. Um, that's something I guess I think about. Um, too. That like, I do think I'm a fairly like boring person. Like I don't. I'm not gonna have like a list of things to do or like. Even when lady was asking me like, what should we do? I'm like, I've been in the house the past 3 years. I haven't really explored Dallas in that way, so I don't really have no suggestions. We're just going with the flow. Okay. I know Eli be knowing some good spots. I wouldn't mind going to go listen to live music if we don't end up going to Alex Isley concert. No pressure to entertain us. Okay, good. Because I feel like I don't know if I'm a good source of entertainment. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little boring. um, but I am excited to meet y'all in person. Um, what else was I gonna talk about in this? I don't know. I was just the regression has been dragging me a little bit, and this also makes me excited for the 4 weeks because we'll be doing this every week. But I will say, so with the cohort, we're going to be doing 4 regressions, but the main regression was the self-sabotage one because each regression afterwards is going to be basically repairing the self-sabotage of like seeing how that self-sabotage also affects all the different themes for each week. So the first one was self-sabotage. Week 1, we'll be doing a regression around receiving, and so How does our self-sabotage affect our ability to receive? How it affects our ability to receive money, abundance, love, connection, support, and really like focusing how to repair those areas. And then week 2 is going to be connection, which will be about relationships for the most part, and connecting with ourselves. And then week 3 is going to be around, what is it? Being seen. And I've been thinking about this too as I like plan out each week. Being seen is not so much about even being seen or being perceived. I think it's about having the capacity to be rejected. To be rejected, to be misunderstood, and to be disliked. That's the real fear, I think, of being seen. I think for the most part, we can handle eyes being on us if it's in alignment with how we perceive ourselves, or even bring us into even seeing ourselves from a different light that is beneficial to us. But the fear of being seen from a negative perspective of like discord, I don't think, especially for women, we have a hard time with that, because I think because of society and patriarchy and all the things, we already have so many critiques around who we are supposed to be, that we are already self-critical. And so to also have somebody else's eyes on us critiquing and perhaps disliking or rejecting us also feels like another layer of distortion, I guess. And so week 3 with being seen, I really want to focus on not so much the fear of being seen, but more so the fear of being rejected or misunderstood. And then week 4 is going to be about embodiment. And so merging all of those together. So week 4 would be like will only be a future regression. And so I'm excited. But I also know that those 4 weeks are probably going to be emotionally taxing, just because it's also going to be during Mercury retrograde. And so I say that ahead of time, that like to choose to do this work means you're choosing to do the work. That like it is not easy work, which is also why like in planning for a workshop or container, I have found that I can't attach myself to who shows up, who doesn't, because who joins and who signs up is for their own individual journey. That it really isn't about like supporting me or wanting to be a part of something that I created, but more so, it is my focus is for it to be transformational and to create change, and that like change isn't easy. Like me and Carlissa was talking about this, like the persona doesn't want to change, and like nobody really wants to die to themselves in a way, because it is painful. There is a lot of grief in that, and that like that's also why I was saying like this work also feels a little burdensome, because I do know the weight that it carries. I do know that it unearths some shit. I do know that it's work. And I look at my commitment to the work as like my commitment, but I also don't know that that's everybody's like journey in life. Like, I don't know if everybody wants to be dragged in this way. That like you're choosing to do this instead of uh, allowing, I guess, the correction to fall upon you. That like you are actually seeking to die to yourself in this way. And I think it's beautiful in that way that we do have choice, and that I'm choosing to use my free will in that way. That like I want to uncover, I want to unravel, I want to I guess become in that way. And I think it's also like a gift to be able to like usher other people through that too. But this is why I love the work, is because I get to do it myself while also moving through it with others. And in that way, I think there is a intimacy and connection in that like for those of us who did the regression last week, we're kind of all navigating our internal worlds in this way that feels, I guess, a little less isolating, because I know y'all are also having to unpack, and it may not look the same as mine. It may not, you know, be to the same degree, but we're all kind of in our own little bubble doing our work. And I think that also gives the push to keep going, because I feel like if you're doing the work by yourself in isolation, it does feel daunting in that way, versus being able to commune and share with people who are also in a similar space. Just makes you feel less alone in it. So it's definitely hard. Yeah, I think that's the plight of, especially like 30s transitioning into 40s. It's like I was saying before, like you don't have time to not do the work. You don't have time to bullshit. Yeah, it's easy to get stuck. It's easy that's another, it's easy to get stuck in the shadow work too. That like I think having other people around you in a similar journey or space also helps bring you back to the light. Also brings you back to like, I guess, connecting in that way, because I think when doing shadow work, it is a lot of like internal processing, a lot of like internal work throughs that can make you kind of disconnect from the world or even reality in a way, because you're navigating your subconscious. And so to have other people also bring you back into like, be here now, be where your feet are, I think is also helpful, because shadow work ain't going nowhere. So like you retrieve one lost aspect of yourself while going into like the underworld, and you collect one bone. Okay, you bring that bone back and you breathe life back into it. You do your La Loba shit. There's still a shit ton of bones back there. And I think sometimes in doing shadow work and working with the subconscious is that you could get lost in the like gathering of the bones, that like you're trying to retrieve all of the bones, whereas like actually this is a practice. You're gonna get this one bone, you're gonna breathe life back into it, and then you're gonna go back and get another and another and another. And over time, I think that is what brings us into wholeness. I don't know if it's safe to do it all at once. I talk about this all the time, that I feel like healing is not an overnight thing. That creates safety. That it does take a lot of patience. It does take a lot of returning. in that way. I am excited though um, about the retrograde, just because I went back and listened to the last live I did during Mercury retrograde, and I was listening like, oh, this is good. That wasn't that long ago, but I completely don't remember it. None that I was talking about, but when I was listening, it was like, oh, okay. But I can also see how the things that I was talking about then has trickled into like my life since then. And I think in this retrograde, it will be the same. Gathering bones as a practice. I like that. Yeah, I think if we looked at most things as a practice, it would allow a lot more softness and ease to come in, because I think we could be very rigid in our pursuit to becoming, or to get things right, or to heal, and I don't know if it worked like that. That we gonna have to do it a little at a time. We'll need to. I always like going back to listen to like lives I did like a couple months ago, or even sometimes I'll go back and listen to some of my old YouTube readings. Like I did YouTube readings, I want to say from like 2022 to maybe 23, summer 24. And I do like to go back and listen to what I was talking about, because sometimes the readings will resonate with what I'm going through presently, but also I like to see like what advice, or what was I talking about back then. The same that I like reading my old journals. Like I cleaned out my closet this weekend and I was reading some of my old journals, and it just made me think like, you can have the wisdom in theory, but until you start actually putting it into practice, you really don't know. Because I was reading some of my journals and it was just like, this was good, like good stuff. Like this was very wise. Why wasn't I not doing anything with this? Like I wrote this out, and I could just see in hindsight, like, girl, you was not applying this. But I'm sure in a couple years I'll be saying the same thing about my journal entries now. So we shall see. But I'll be talking more about Mercury retrograde. I guess we're in like the shadow period, because the shadow period starts 2 weeks before, but the retrograde starts officially June 29th. So I'll be talking more about it in the coming weeks, or lives, should I say. But I gotta go back to work. I was debating on if I was gonna go live during my lunch break or after work. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out like my work schedule for the summer, because I kind of feel like I've been winging it every day, which honestly I feel like has been nice, because I've just been able to go with the flow. Like if I wake up early one day, I'll start at 5 or 6. If I don't another day, I'll start whenever I wake up, which today was 7:30. I've been enjoying, honestly, just being lazy. I know lazy probably is not the most, I guess, productive word, but I've been enjoying not having to do anything in particular, like not having to stick to a schedule, or anything in particular. Hey, naturally, Rashida. I was just about to hop off. So I'll be talking more about the cohort. It starts July 1st. The last day to sign up for the early bird price is going to be June 19th, so this Friday. It's just going to be $100 more if you sign up after that. You can make payments. You can break it down into 2 payments. The total price is $397 before Friday. After Friday is going to be $497. Either way, you can break it down into 2 payments. Again, the cohort is going to be a series of 4 regressions. Each week we will tackle a different theme. And if you missed last week's workshop and you still want to join the cohort, you will get the replay so that you can do the initial workshop on your own and before we start. So if that's something you're interested in, you can DM me and I'll send you the link, or you could just go to the link in my description box. And it's under July 1st cohort on my website. Bye, y'all.